forgot to dissolve. Happy Father's Day, Charles.
Happy Father's Day to your family and to you and to our wider family here and on the show. You know why we're standing in front of the Armed Forces Recruiting Center?
Because your father was in the armed forces.
Well, that's not why, but we should, particularly for people who are stationed abroad in our services now, who can't be with their children, who identify as being fathers.
Right. We're not biologists.
Right. This is a special day, and it's a day when we should remember the families that are separated, fighting in the service of protecting each of us who's safe here at home.
Yes. And even though we're not exactly safe.
Exactly. We're far from safe.
What is that guy looking at?
No.
But Charles, we're back in Times Square, which is one of our, usual spots. Let's just make sure. Yeah, so we're live today again on some of our alternate platforms like Telegram and Rumble,
Odyssey,
and Getter is really growing nicely.
That's good.
Surprisingly windy here today.
Yeah, watch out. This is a dodgy area. You remember it was about 2 years ago when we were walking around here in like April, May. We were walking on the street and there's no traffic.
Right, out where the cars drive.
Yeah. A lot of cops everywhere though.
Oh, texting, of course.
Must be a Krispy Kreme around here.
Well, I was going to say, I hope this guy's texting Jenny Craig.
Well, I think I happen to know that there is a Krispy Kreme up the street.
Yep, it's the worldwide headquarters.
Is it here in New York?
I'm joking. No, I think it's from Kentucky or I don't even know where.
Oh,
do you officers know where the worldwide headquarters of Krispy Kreme is?
Let's leave them alone.
What's going on here?
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think you got the joke, Charles.
I know. Why do you think? Why did you ask him?
Well, I don't know, but it was misunderstood in the funniest way it could be.
Look, another police car.
Well, I think a lot of police are around because today is Juneteenth.
No, it isn't.
Isn't it?
No, today is National Martini Day, actually. I looked it up this morning. Today is National Martini Day. Technically, it is June 19th, chronologically and numerically speaking, but the genius Biden decided that we're going to celebrate it on Monday, so he gets another 3-day holiday. I mean, this guy, I refer to him as Resident Joe Biden, but he can't even say he's a resident of Washington, D.C. I mean, I wonder if he technically meets the number of days and the location requirement to be deemed a resident.
Exactly. He's the residue of a president.
Residouche? What?
But
I couldn't hear that.
Before we move off of Juneteenth, is it traditionally, I know you're probably not a Juneteenth expert, but is it normally on the 19th? Is that?
I have no clue. I mean, it's, I think at a time when fewer and fewer people are actually able to get jobs, the last thing we need is to have more holidays.
Well, I never heard of it before last year, so I don't know too much about it, but it is a little bit of a jam up that it lands on Father's Day, and then they have to actually put it on a day that's not even a teen number.
We're going to end up being like Rome. Every day is a holiday. Ancient Rome, where every day is a holiday.
Oops, sorry. Joe Biden needs to fiddle while it burns, Charles, because what do you think about him crashing his bicycle? It's
to be expected,
Metaphor for the economy.
I mean, I've never seen anybody fall up a gangplank, up a jet bridge.
Well, now you've seen somebody fall off a stationary bicycle.
He's fallen up the gangway twice.
I know.
Upstairs. How do you do that? I mean, I understand how you fall downstairs. That's easy. But how do you fall upstairs?
His
3
stupidity
times?
Defies gravity. It's
this is kind of busy. Oh, this is.
Whoa.
Let's keep going. I don't want to.
We got a little Mardi Gras going on here.
And there's a fright. If you like that one, you don't like this one. That's Hillary Clinton. I thought she's out of the race.
She's the queen of the Juneteenth parade. Do they have a parade?
I have no clue.
Oh wait,
let's stay away from this. They're here all the time. There are pickpockets everywhere.
I think it's a capoeira thing. Not really sure. Now, Charles, Putin gave a speech.
Well, before we go there, we got to focus on the poster because it was too good.
Thank you.
I don't like us, all that hard work on the poster and then we never talk about it.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Well, we'll get upset about that.
Well, anybody in the art department who's upset can quit.
You musking you?
Yes.
You're taking.
Look, even the Mounties are texting. Who is this person?
Oh, it's Times Square Alliance.
Oh, okay. They got a Canadian hat. This is probably communism under there. But yeah, this is
Especially uniforms and everything.
a classic movie, Charles, with the Pro Dunces who are running our country. Chief Dunce Biden. I don't know what that bird is on the hat. That was from the original thing. And then we've got, what's the chief of staff?
Ron
Klain as Bialystok. And then, Pete Buttigieg is playing the role of Matthew Broderick or Gene Wilder, depending on, when you grew up and saw that movie. But this Putin speech, he's at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum.
Right, that's trying to rival Davos.
Is that what it's doing?
It's trying to.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but I found it to be an incredibly interesting speech. See, a lot of people say to me, when we have a conversation about Ukraine and I raise the points that Russia has raised, they're like, oh, why do you believe Putin? I don't believe Putin, and I never met him. I don't believe anybody I've never met, and a lot of people who I have met, I believe facts.
Right.
And so he basically was up there laying out facts. He said that, the people in the West, he was talking about Joe Biden, of course, have blamed inflation on him.
It's ridiculous.
The Putin price hike he was talking about. But then he went into great detail explaining how, essentially the petrodollar, how the economy was based on, nothing, that they just kept printing money, that 38% more money came into the U.S., from quantitative easing. The thing that was also very interesting, and I've spoken about this before, I was watching a France 24 version of the speech,
right?
And they had a French translator speaking English, but with a French accent and translating Putin's Russian. And unlike a lot of American shows that do that, they left the Putin vocal track there. So you could hear what he was saying, and obviously I barely understood. I mean, I don't understand Russian except for like hello, goodbye, a couple phrases. And what was interesting is, the French guy is going along and speaking, and I could hear in the background, Putin says, da, конечно, which means yes, of course. Whoa, that guy's going fast, I know. I look at the cars, not the light. But anyway, Putin in the background says, da, конечно, which means yes, of course. But then the French translation did not say anything that remotely resembled yes, of course.
Right, what did it say?
I'd have to go back and review it to have a more detailed thing. I mean, it didn't contradict him, but the point is the guy determines that that's not the crux of what he's talking about, and here's my real-time translation based on my skill as a translator.
Lines to get into Krispy Kreme?
I think that's just the outdoor window. But it's just, I just want people to be aware of the fact that when you hear a translation of any foreign leader speaking, there's...
Figures right. You got farm to table and you got cop to donut.
Cop to donut. There's a certain amount that's lost in translation, and it caused me to start to think about what a poor diplomat Joe Biden is, and frankly almost anybody who's ever been the president of the United States. Because Putin speaks English, even though he doesn't do it publicly very often.
Right.
And so anytime he's in a meeting, he has a much better understanding of what is going on than somebody who's relying on a translator.
Right.
And when we hear these quotes that are attributed to him, none of this gets considered. But he basically was talking about how these sanctions have backfired. The sanctions have created more economic strife in the West, and that the Russian economy is doing great. He went through a bunch of details that I really would like to watch it with you because he's talking about inflation in Russia and what the Russian central bank is doing with interest rates and stuff that I really wouldn't understand if it was English or Russian. But he was talking about building a commodity economy, commodity-based economy, and how it's just the United States and the petrodollar and the Western economies are going to continue to collapse on themselves. I thought it was a very serious and important speech.
Biden was at the beach, though, right?
Oh no, he's crashing his bicycle. But the even better part is, I finally saw a video. There's a crowd of people around him when he crashes, so most of the videos are obscured. I finally saw a video from somebody at the front of the pack. Biden pulls up on the bicycle at a normal speed, stops, and then when he's fully stopped, that's when he falls. It's like the stupidest thing ever.
Face plant.
Total.
Yeah, it's pathetic. I mean, the whole initially when we were first talking about Ukraine, and well before the invasion started, for years on Sputnik and other places, I've been saying we need to understand our respective views.
Right.
The West of what we think is going on, the East of what they think is going on, with regard to the former Soviet Union and Central Europe. And we're just talking, we're not even talking past one another. In the case of Biden, I mean, I don't think he's smart enough to star in a remake of the film Clueless. I mean,
he would need a lot of training to get up to that
up to that Clueless level.
Yeah.
I mean, this is our future. Fake crap on the sidewalk.
It's terrible.
And one of the most expensive. PIMCO, for example, is a gigantic money manager, managing. I don't know if they manage $1 trillion or more. Why would they tolerate this bullshit?
Maybe they don't know. Are they there on Sunday?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
24/7.
I don't know. That's really.
It's just. But Eric Adams, our mayor, he's all in for this.
Yeah, it's really bad.
But with regard to Ukraine, this guy, is it Doug Henderson? What's Doug McGregor? Douglas McGregor?
Who?
He's a military guy who's...
the general who's on the news?
I don't know that he's a general, but I think he's a colonel.
Military advisor or whatever. I don't know
that guy. And he was early on saying, listen, don't even waste time believing that Ukraine could stop this, because they can't. And Tucker had him on a number of times, and that was getting reasonably successful. So they, of course, accused him of being a racist, which he is not.
What does that have to do with military analysis?
No, it's just that's their playbook. This is nice. Man. Nice look. Pants falling down, filthy. He has a piece out the last 24, 48 hours, basically explaining the tactics that the Russians have been using. What they're trying to do is to get the military forces, such as they exist, of Ukraine, bogged down in an area where they can surround them and give them a chance to either surrender or get obliterated. And this is a tactic that they have used over decades, if not centuries, of warfighting. Our friend Fabian was explaining to me several weeks ago that this is their strategy.
Ladies and gentlemen, help for the homeless.
Do you see any ladies around?
I don't know what that woman's talking about.
Okay. It's like, just make it simpler. The guy who was asking me in front of the bank or in front of my building saying, will you lend me $10?
What if I don't ever want to see you again? So it's not coming back.
Right. Ridiculous.
But wait a minute, so Fabian was saying that Russia...
This is the Russian tactic, that when you see them move to the stage where they're dropping an intense artillery bombardment, that means they're very close to finishing the job in the place that they've targeted. And Zelensky himself has said in the last 24 hours or so that 20% of Ukraine is now occupied. That's a lot of territory to occupy in a very short period of time. And Ukraine is a huge country.
Right.
And I don't think, well, maybe with regard to the Iraq war, we temporarily occupied, made large gains, but I don't know that Iraq is, we'll have to look it up and see what percentage of the...
compared to the size of Ukraine?
Ukraine is huge.
Well, they have Burger King in Iraq now, so probably somebody likes that.
All good then.
Yeah.
Any Krispy Kremes?
Maybe. You're going to have to ask Halliburton. Oh, Charles, wait a minute.
This
is really pertinent.
I know. Hence the walk in this direction.
Yeah. the Stephen Colbert Show. Triumph the Insult Comic Dog, which incidentally he stole from Conan O'Brien, got arrested for illegally parading in the Capitol and, well, just trespassing, being there without authorization, and also obstructing, what's her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, and Shifty Schiff was the one who let them in.
No.
We still don't have Lloyd.
Here we go. Will they hold those guys in jail for 2 years now?
Well, I doubt it, but the one thing that is good about this is that you now have to, Tucker went on and on about it, but you have to contrast the two experiences. These people were inside after hours for a long period of time, knocking on, making fun of Republican congresspeople, and, you know, obviously it was premeditated. They didn't just do this spontaneously.
We need to capture Adam Schiff's phone and all of his encrypted apps.
Exactly. And this whole, I mean, if you're going to have a game, you got to have rules. And the rules have to be applied equally.
I agree.
And so it's not, we have accepted for too long, that's to say those of us who are conservative economically and interested in supporting the Constitution because we believe it to be the law of this land, we've accepted the idea that revolutionaries and rebels can do whatever they want because their goal is to burn down the system, and that we, on the other hand, have to play by the revolutionaries' interpretation of the rules. I refuse to play that game.
It's very upsetting, Charles. And I'm becoming frustrated because it seems to be getting worse. What is this guy doing?
Not much. But yeah, I mean, the idea, we were down there on January 6th. You have the 5 hours of videotape that I think is available various ways.
Chip.
Huh?
No videotape.
Whatever.
Chip.
You know, indulge me.
Sorry. I've recently put it on Odyssey, so if people have missed it, they can see that on odyssey.com and search for Crowdsource the Truth.
Right, and you know, what I think the founders didn't specifically envisage videotape or even television.
Or even film.
Or even film, exactly. But they did imagine that out of diversity of viewpoints expressed using free speech, advancement of learning would result. And instead we have this idea, and it's really ironic that the supposed rebels would be going down this path, that we need speech czars and we need people to decide, distinguish information from misinformation and malinformation, and it's just, everybody should be thinking for his, her, or its self about trying to separate fact from fiction, trying to separate malicious nonsense from just plain old nonsense. In the case of, which is a hopeless task when it comes to Biden and his administration, that are all asshats spouting nonsense. And which brings me back a little bit to the poster. I mean, if you were, you probably went to Barnum and Bailey Circus.
I did.
Yeah, remember the clown cars? You know, you have these tiny little cars, and out would come
Volkswagen with a dozen people in it.
You know, this collection of asshat clown car
chauffeurs,
riders, not even they're not smart enough to drive the clown car. Going around, we get boot edge, patrolling the world, patrolling America, looking for racist roads when he's not traveling abroad to go to conferences. And
I don't think he goes near broads.
No, but he likes to travel to expensive venues.
It's a joke.
I know. I'm just.
Sorry. Bad joke.
Yeah.
It's hard to know when you'll like or dislike.
No, it's not a question of like or dislike. I just.
Yeah.
But in the case of Buttigieg, I mean, we have a fossil fuel based transportation system. We have serious product shortages, things that you really need. Forget for a second infant formula. You really do need to have that for certain types of young folk. But I'm sorry to bring this topic up, but apparently there's a tampon shortage as well.
I heard about that.
And
what are tampons made of?
I don't know, but the point is, we had none of this under Trump.
Right.
We even approached this under, and you didn't have this under, you know, I am not curious George W. Bush.
Right.
Right. But the worst moments of when the economy nearly melted down, there were product shortages in October, November, December 2008. And so this moonbeam is at a beach mansion that he did not buy himself. There is no way he saved the money to buy that legitimately.
It's a slap in the face.
In the middle of pandemonium.
It's crazy.
And he's getting his solution when you bring up criticism that is reasonable is either to say, well, why don't you speak to my press secretary who's going to answer every question and say, you know, I'm a black lesbian.
No, she now has turned to looking through the binder in silence and then saying, I don't have any answer for that. Next question.
I mean,
but Putin did address some of what you're talking about. He said that the nitrogen-based fertilizer, they have plenty to export, but someone has mined the shipping area as a danger to boats, and they're not the ones who put the mines there.
Yeah,
so he didn't say who did, but he implied that there were deliberate efforts being undertaken to prevent these exports from Russia, in addition to the economic sanctions that have totally failed and backfired.
Right, and to jump back into Ukraine for a bit, what McGregor has been talking about and others have been mentioning is in the eastern portion of Ukraine, that's where you have lots of people in Ukraine speak Russian, but that's where you have people who are closer to Russia than not. It's the western portion, primarily, where you have Ukrainians who are more of a Polish background, or
and even certain things that used to be Poland and used to be Russia are now integrated.
Right. But the East, what the Kyiv government's been doing since 2014, it's the Kyiv government that's been shelling and destroying the East.
The Donbass,
and it's Putin's forces that have come in and said enough of this. So it's 8 years of this crap. We're not putting up with this anymore.
Patrick Lancaster is in Donetsk, and he published 2 videos this morning. One appeared to be from yesterday. He said that
go this way into the park.
Okay. He said that the shelling was the heaviest it's been, and he was living there for 8 years. He started reporting on the shelling, and then later the war. But I mean, normally his videos are he's going somewhere after it's been destroyed. He was running away from stuff blowing up and helping dig people out of, like, some fruit market got exploded, apartment buildings, and he's just going up to people in the streets and asking them what's going on, and they're screaming and yelling about, Ukraine is bombing these apartment buildings.
Right. And so, in that connection, you saw the story about USA Today, one of their fact checkers.
23 stories taken down.
Not 33.
Right, that pizza place is open now.
This is great.
Pretty safe for him and everybody. Don't trip over this guy.
Absolutely ridiculous.
That's that fancy ice cream place.
But it's just absurd.
Yeah, I know.
A caring city would have people out, waking people like that up, taking them somewhere,
to the hospital,
and dry cleaning them, figuring out what's really going on, trying to help. But to leave him standing, inevitably somebody's going to trip over him, and he's going to get hurt, and they're going to get hurt.
Well, he might freak out and attack.
Right.
This is a cane store.
I'll bear that in mind. Get that one with the
skull.
Yeah, skull and bones.
Screw that off and have poison in it. But who knew there was that kind of demand for canes?
There's probably going to be ever more. Acid bucks here. Starbucks. So back though on Ukraine, we were rushed into sending, was it 40-odd billion on top of the 13 billion, and now they want more billions. And originally the theory was it's the Ukrainians who are doing all the fighting. They're not asking for U.S. forces. Look, we got to help the brave Ukrainians fight. And now we're learning the brave Ukrainians are defecting or surrendering, and the war is nearly lost. And now there's arguments that we need to double our commitment from another 80 different, probably people who are lobbying to become directors or consultants to Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. I mean, have we learned absolutely nothing?
I would say yes. We have learned absolutely nothing. Or at least the people in charge have.
Yeah. 6 feet is not the same as 2 meters. Let's try to stay in the shade if we can.
Sure. Yeah, it's much hotter today than I
Right.
expected it would be. We've got a heavy
So why do they
concentration of
need-
dopes here, Charles.
Why do you have this when we have City Bike?
Which? The rental thing?
This is not City Bike. They're probably charging
you're
a lot.
right. I don't know.
You know, or conversely, if they had this, why do they need City Bike? City Bike.
I don't really. When City Bike first came out, I was kind of interested in it. But when I looked at how much it costs to use it, that's when I decided to buy my own bike. And then I rode it to Brooklyn once and just decided that I'll just keep this in case I need an emergency bike to leave, and
Right.
haven't ridden it too much.
What happened to the buildings?
What
Are we in another movie? This is like a park here.
Oh, yeah.
What park is this?
Central Park.
Are you
We're
sure?
in the middle of it all here, Charles. That's actually nice. The roar of the traffic immediately dies down when you walk in here. You do get a smell of greenery and
Horseman.
nature.
Horseman.
Well, yeah. It's fertilizer instead of nitrogen. We just need more horses, I guess.
That's right. So that's our green energy future. We'll get back to riding horses, having horse manure all over the place. Let's let these people pass. Otherwise known as very loud.
So, Charles, the other thing I saw is that this morning there was some contingent of like very young, maybe high school age. These guys are even louder. Young girls who were going to Amy Comey Barrett's house on Father's Day with these plastic dolls of babies, and bloody and with their hands tied together and signs. This was
It's disgusting.
bothersome to me. The signs said, "Stop forcing women to give birth against their will."
Who's doing that?
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that the only condition under which that applies, in my opinion, is if a woman is raped.
Well, no, there could be, she's pregnant and past the 20 weeks, and the husband cheats on her and they can't get back together. What do you do about the baby?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to necessarily get into these hypotheticals, but just the wording of against your will
Right.
implies no consent to the initial act that,
I thought we can't talk about this topic.
because we're not biologists.
No, consent.
For women?
They're doing things against your consent, like say, a
It's like saying, I
certain
pulled the
vaccine,
trigger.
a certain vaccine.
But I didn't consent to the bullet coming out of the gun. That's what that's basically saying. And
Yeah.
it makes no sense.
Of course, to put it in polite terms, buyer's remorse.
Right. But it's just absolutely reprehensible that didn't they pass this law for additional security for why don't they just say no one is allowed to protest in this private neighborhood? Go protest at a government building or a public park or, some of these places. You can't just...
Well, if we break it down a little bit, I understand that there are supposed charities, and I've looked one of them up. It doesn't exist. Ruth Shock. Ruth sent us.
Yeah.
The supposed charities are out there agitating, maybe even paying people off to break the law. That is not a
Wow.
valid charitable purpose.
Oh, you mean paying for them to go protest in the neighborhood?
Right, you can't do that.
At a judge's house. It's specifically prohibited.
Right. But then, as our wise friend says, but it's the Justice Department that decides who's going to enforce
Right.
that. And so if the Justice Department says, that's a law we're not going to enforce, let's go around this way maybe. And
Really pretty crowded in the park today, don't you think?
it is. Trying to get away from these loudmouth idiots.
You've got to leave this city to do that.
State and possibly
Yeah.
country.
Maybe this planet. That one-way trip to Mars
That's right.
is looking better every day.
Good
I
for
think there's a
you.
lot of nitrogen on Mars. You could export that to Joe Biden.
Why don't you check it out and report back to me, Joe?
Good luck on your trip to the moon. I'm going to trip getting off a bicycle. That's good, Joe.
Ugh.
Just so dumb, Charles. He's so dumb.
He's not that smart. He's not smart enough to be deemed dumb. He's a maroon.
I mean, the points you were bringing up earlier, even in some of the most dire conditions, 9/11, I don't know that I've ever been in a psychological state like I was in the days after 9/11, but it wasn't like this, There immediately was a sense of everybody rallying together, and the recovery started immediately, cleaning it up, and...
We're not going to let this get us down.
Right. And this is just like the opposite. It's like a slow-going constantly increasing malaise.
Well, I think one of the things that I think I tweeted out that Joe Biden's strategy for lessening inequality around the world is to destroy America and have us, give away our military capabilities, leaving Afghanistan, now in Ukraine. Will destroy the economy. Yeah, that'll make rich America poor, so there'll be less inequality. That's like, dude, you have no fucking clue.
Well, let me ask you this. So they've estimated the cost of the material left in Afghanistan at, I think, 80 or 85 billion.
Yeah, I heard 85 billion.
85 billion. And then now we're talking about something on the order of
55.
55.
We've already spent 55, or committed 55.
So 140 billion. How many countries in the world have I know you don't like, GDP or GNP or whatever. How many countries in the world have $150 billion that they can just like lose and be like, eh?
I would say very few. I mean,
Maybe zero, including us? This looks like a cliff.
This looks pretty slippery.
You can't go walking off that.
Yeah.
You bet sorry, I don't know what fancy brand. You're not Florsheim, I know.
No, that's not fancy.
I mean, that's the thing. I can't even be. I was going to say Bruno Mali. You don't like that. That's whatever you got. It's not for walking on those rocks.
Old cheapo shoes, but this is.
I got the 3D Adidas. I don't want to walk on the rocks.
All right. Can't see. We
I
may.
think we're fenced in.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's an exit over there. Sorry.
But the point is, they're just like. Joe Biden is like a drunken sailor.
It's an insult
leaving
to
his
drunken.
wallet in the bar.
It's an insult to drunken sailors to make that comparison. I mean, he's.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that when people meet him, who are rivals, adversaries, whatever, they're increasingly coming away and saying, "There's no way that America legitimately voted for this bozo." I mean, right? I mean, he's just.
They might think that, but I think what they're thinking is now is the time to strike.
Of course.
Moment of weakness.
Of course.
And you know what? Look, Putin is not taking advantage to strike. He basically, the net of what he was saying is all you need to do is look around at the past. Anyone who is saying that the special military operation in Ukraine caused this economic strife in Europe and the United States doesn't have eyes or a brain,
right,
is what he was saying. So to everybody who ever asks me, why do you believe Putin? The answer is, I don't believe Putin, I believe facts. And what he's talking about is easily verified by looking at facts and history, and he's just right.
We go that way?
Sure.
Meander a little bit. Nice walk in the park, Jason.
Yeah. I mean, he was talking about how printing all this money to pay off their debt is making the money worthless, and that now Russia has fortified its economy. I mean, he was talking about their central bank and the interest rates versus their existing inflation and the national deficit, and how the increase in the value of the ruble and the sales they've been doing in energy have eliminated their debt, and they now have a national surplus, and their economy is stronger than ever. I mean, it was all the type of stuff that somebody going to St. Petersburg economic whatever it was wanted to hear, kind of outside my area of deep understanding.
It's just like running what he's talking about is just like running your own finances.
Right.
I mean, if you have more cash, if every week, you're spending 50% more than you earn, you're an unhappy person, especially now as interest rates have risen here. I'm going to be giving you a call and say, by the way, Jason, that credit line that you've been using and increasing every week, we're cutting it entirely. Please pay it off by Friday.
Right, I don't have that.
Well,
but Putin said more people were putting money into the bank because the interest rates were going up, and that it was showing that the Russian people had confidence and that they had staved off this threat. And he also pointed how that basically the United States and Europe have now created an irreversible trend where all these other countries around the world no longer trust the dollar because they recognize that in addition to it being, losing whatever percent he said per year over the last whatever number of years, people now realize that if, the United States gets pissed off, they'll just take the money. So nobody wants to have their money in dollar reserves.
I don't know if do we need to go underneath there?
I don't know. Should be.
We can go that way. Good.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful day.
It is absolutely beautiful. There's that building, remember the one that you can see through?
Oh, yeah? That's also artificially inflating price. Well, it's too many kids there, but this is
I used to play here when I was a kid.
this is the merry-go-round. I don't know if we've really seen that. I did a 3D thing in there one time, testing one of my cameras. Oh, look, Charles, Russian commodities. Привет. Oh, all right.
It's probably Ukrainian.
His shirt said he's Russian and Ukrainian.
Possible.
Well, I know, but he didn't respond to hello.
He's too busy texting.
He's like,
Arranging a Tinder date.
right. He's thinking in his mind, возьми свой палец и засунь себе в жопу. People who speak Russian will laugh like crazy at that. It's like one phrase I remembered. It's incredibly rude. I will not translate it.
All right.
But it's approximately what that guy was thinking. Stick it where the sun don't shine.
Yeah, that's what Biden tries to do on a daily basis. Sadly, when it comes to this country, he's succeeding.
It was impressive that he wasn't injured from that
So-
ridiculous fall. Well, he said he wasn't. He like hopped off or on to Air Force One to prove that he wasn't injured, I believe.
Yeah, of course, we believe him.
Well, he was hopping.
Hop on pop.
Right. What else is on your mind, Charles?
Well, let's just trying to figure out, can we go now, do you think? No? We have
We
the
have
light.
the thing. But I don't know if these people follow that. Yeah. So I did a very good show with Lee Stranahan.
Yeah, I watched part of it.
yesterday.
It was good.
Yeah, people can still see that on subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth and patreon.com/crowdsource
Shady.
the truth and patreon.com/Stranahan. Lee was talking a lot about this Ashley Biden diary, and I think he's got a point. He drew an equivalent to Anthony Weiner, how, when these charges of, complex
Right.
fraud and breaking the law and all that, a lot of people don't really necessarily understand the details sufficiently to be as outraged as they might
Right.
be. But when it comes to salacious, sensational, scandalous sexual stuff, it's like a tweet, essentially. It's short and everybody can get it.
Well, yeah, I mean, my family, prior to my niece being born, I'm not going to say what year, the last in our direct line, female Ortel was born, I want to say in 1860 something.
Whoa.
So there was no, certainly with me and my brother, no recent knowledge of what you have to do or what, how to raise a daughter.
Right.
And even me being, somebody who doesn't like to talk about health issues and not really gifted with science and other things, even I understand that young kids are they reach a certain age where they become very, very conscious. And, they do.
Curious.
Well, but beyond that, they don't, they want to be, their privacy to be respected.
Oh, right.
And that age where that happens, I think, without conditioning. I mean, you can condition kids to want it sooner, but it's certainly by the age of 5.
I was going to say 5, 6.
Yeah.
So you start to express a personality, right?
Right. But if you're talking about a teenage girl, a preteen girl, who's going through puberty and complex changes in her body and this and that, and her father's showering with her, that's absurd.
I think it was Tucker. Somebody brought up a good point that, I remember this from when I was a kid. You're kind of like not that little by the time you start taking showers.
Right. Yeah, you take baths.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
Puppet mobile.
Yeah.
Maybe Joe Biden is in there.
Yeah, let's go up.
And Zelensky.
Yeah, let's go. Let's see. We want to make sure we're doing this the right way. Yeah, let's go up around this, and then we'll go down 5th or down Madison.
Okay.
And maybe cross here. But it's the kind of thing that's an offense so grave, and we see the effects of it on what's her name, Ashley, and then
Ashley.
on Hunter and others in the Biden family. This is not a trivial mistake. It's the kind of thing where you learn that this is going on, and if you're in the same school, for example, with Ashley's, you got a daughter, let's say, or a son going to school with Ashley,
the cops.
and you hear about this, you say, you report the behavior to the school, you call the cops, you consider moving. I mean, it's just ridiculous behavior. And there are a lot of deviants in the press.
Is this
You
your
want that hat?
Yeah. You could go to
It's
the
Biden's
Capitol
hat.
with this. Get some horns in it.
Yeah.
And then we didn't
And the
even
David Lee Roth makeup.
You can just mail it back to Biden at the
But
insane
you're right,
asylum.
Charles. It's such egregious. I mean, it's an allegation, to be fair. We need to understand from Ashley Biden and Joe, but no one's even talking about it other than a few.
Well, what I think Tucker was talking about, and I don't know because I didn't hear the whole thing, whether Stranahan was also talking about it, what was really frightening is that Bill Barr played an effort, significant effort, to stop people from looking into this diary.
Yep.
And between Hunter's diary, I mean, what is it with Biden's and diaries?
Well, the laptop. Is it a diary, really? He's just spewing everything.
It's also, I
and
mean,
recording.
it's an electronic laptop. I mean,
Yeah,
electronic
you're right.
diary.
Essentially, that's true.
You know?
Yep. Well, it's not surprising about Bill Barr because, there is that picture of Joe Biden, Bill Barr, and what's his name? Patrick Leahy.
Uh-huh.
And they're smiling. And, Joe Biden was in the Senate during Iran-Contra, and it's quite clear to me that Bill Barr's primary purpose was not to be the Attorney General or to be a toady for Trump or any of the stuff that any of the QAnon people thought he was going to do. He was there to make sure that somebody who is outside the circle of criminals does not get too close to exposing one of the most horrendous crimes in the history of the U.S. government, which was Iran-Contra. And the related crimes.
And the related crimes involving the Clinton Foundation.
Right. So Clinton, Biden, any of them,
Bush.
anybody in the Bush family, nothing was going to happen to them. And Barr was basically, he was socially engineering Trump in the way that various people have me and others that we know. Approach as a friend, do something helpful to gain your trust to the point that it becomes difficult for the target to believe that this person could possibly be against me. He shut down the Mueller investigation. How could he be my enemy? But he was, and that's the trick.
Yeah. I think let's go around that way
Sure.
because that takes us underneath the tunnel. I think we're going to be pretty close to 72nd Street
Okay,
up here.
here's that dog
Yeah.
statue.
Yeah, it's difficult to believe that you're in the center of a concrete jungle,
Right.
but you is.
So I wonder if we'll see anything come of that diary kerfuffle.
Let's see, maybe we go that way.
And you see, Ashley Biden, she's on Twitter, but it was strange. It was difficult to tell if this was an authentic Ashley Biden Twitter account. This guy's got like every single vehicle possible here. It was difficult to know if it was an authentic Ashley Biden Twitter account. It only had like, going by memory, but like
Well, was-
3,000 followers or
Was Joe
something.
following her?
I don't know. It was just very limited number of tweets and not
Yeah.
too many followers, not too many tweets. I couldn't tell if it was really her.
I mean, mental illness and mental challenges are not to be trifled with.
Whoops, you're about to trip over a dog.
Jesus. But when you're thinking about,
Doing a good job of controlling that dog.
well, when you think about what we know, just not without getting into the gutter, but what we know about the Biden family, the car crash that killed his
Right.
wife and was it one other daughter or?
The one daughter, right.
And then how did Jill Biden become Joe Biden's wife? When did the relationship actually start?
Right, the ex-husband has a different story than she does.
Right. Then Hunter is a monumental fuck up, yet the resident says that he's, even now, the smartest person he knows. And that's not a surprise.
He's qualified the statement by saying from a purely intellectual, his understanding of crack is...
It's like off the charts,
Yeah.
epic. I ought to try some of that stuff. I mean,
You need a dentist to replace all of your teeth.
That's right.
He knows.
That's right. Yeah, what is it? Invisalign. Don't forget Invisalign. Try crack.
I have Invisalign.
Do you?
Well, I mean, I got it when my teeth were crooked and now they're straight.
Let's go across 67. This is not
But that's
far
just
away.
braces, not new teeth.
I know. I'm just saying. But it could cost more money than, say, somebody hooking you up with crack and losing all your teeth.
I think it, yeah.
getting some.
Plus, you can't go to jail for having Invisalign. Look at this guy cutting off two old women walking through the. Sorry, they're not old. They might have heard me say that, but just two women walking through the crosswalk. That guy sped through to cut them off.
Right. Now this, I think, is not far away from where
Epstein.
Epstein's up the ways, but this is not far away from that building where who was the head of CNN? Jeff Zucker.
Oh,
Lived around.
Oh,
When?
yeah. So you told me that Brian Stetler is getting fired?
Well, the rumor is that the new management team and owner above CNN is going to just wholesale house clean all the fake news and twisted opinion writers out of CNN, and maybe the audience will get back to a tenth of what it used to be if they do that. But
I'll believe it when I see it, but it sounds like a good idea.
yeah, I mean, I think back to my meeting with fake Flapper Yapper, which was, I think, June 1st or 2nd. I have the pass somewhere. 2016, which had been set up by, they requested the meeting, and I sat there being taped in theory for a special on charity fraud, which I'm sure my musings went direct to the Clintons.
Right. Never made it to air, right?
But think about this. This is, call it 9 days before or thereabouts, the interview Assange gave, where he said, I have information on Hillary Clinton that will put her in prison.
They're like, actually, it's going to put you in prison, bro.
Right.
See you in about 10 years.
Right. And so, one really needs to go back over this time frame. Now that all these new revelations are coming out here about what the FBI was obstructing, what they were covering up. And here we are. This is super fancy territory.
But it's all out of business.
And we'll see as we walk down, it's mostly out of business. Which way do you want to go? Do you want to go
You
down
want to
Madison?
go down Madison and take a look at how it's doing?
Sure. Now, for comparison, it is Father's Day. And
Right. Nobody's here.
you would expect, I mean, if I owned a restaurant around here on Father's Day, I'd close it. To be with my own family, and also to respect the wait staff and the kitchen staff and other people. But look, I mean, this used to be impossible in the 2005-06 time frame. It was virtually impossible to get space on Madison here. There were waiting lists, the
Right.
rents were stratospherically high. Now it's garbage.
Yep.
You've got
Yikes.
what are those outlet malls. You got a garbage mall.
Yeah.
Oscar de la Renta. Oscar de la Renta.
That's pretty good. So there's a lot of back and forth with regard to Dumb Joe going to Saudi Arabia. Initially, it was presented as an initiative to convince them to increase oil production with the hope that that was going to, bring the price down or help with inflation or whatever. But I mean, isn't it true, Charles? Everybody basically says that demand for gasoline goes up in the summer because people are taking more vacations and driving around more. And so Joe is waiting until July 19th to even go there and start the conversation.
Well,
halfway through.
It's just idiocy. I mean, I know from my former brother-in-law who worked for Prince Waleed, and from going to Saudi Arabia several times and meeting with Waleed on 2 occasions, and with senior members of the royal family and the head of the central bank and whatever. July is a time when most Saudi Arabian powerful people are in the south of France.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's boiling hot. Why would you? And that's why that's why MBS has the gigantic ocean-going yacht.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to be in Saudi Arabia in July.
I would stay on the yacht the whole entire time if I had one.
But so that's step one. Step two, the Saudis are rich as they are and powerful as they may be. They are outnumbered, monumentally outnumbered by poor people.
Oh, in their own country.
In their own country, and heavily dependent on foreigners to do the heavy lifting jobs and also to advise them on the military. So it's not a joke for them, and there are constantly feuds between different
Factions
members of
within the family.
Right, and the winners play rough. I mean, the Saud family itself, in creating Saudi Arabia, if you look into the history, they just,
Killed with impunity.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
it's
doubt.
clan fighting. So for Biden to campaign and say, we're going to make an example of MBS, he's a pariah, and then also to be as clueless as he is on everything, but supporting the Iranian thectocracy, which is not exactly at war, though the Houthi issue is, I think, and does involve Iran, to be going down the wrong path with Iran, making these comments about a guy who could, if he survives, be king of Saudi Arabia for 50 years,
Yeah.
right? And then think with lying about what's going on, and telling the public one thing and then a different thing and circling
Going on,
back.
you mean with the economy?
Well, no, that
The war?
I'm going there to a Gulf Cooperation Conference.
Oh, and they said, no, you're not.
Right, no. Oh, no, you're not.
What did they say? I didn't really hear the response, just that they contradicted it.
Yeah, they're talking about matters of energy policy and geostrategy and this and that. But, and we know the MBS, if he really doesn't like you, you're sushi. And
Yeah.
if he's just cheesed off at you, you get to, that weight loss thing now that...
Hanging upside down
yeah,
with all the lead.
Mike Lindell will not be selling
Walmart.
My Pillows at Walmart because they're going to now have this special weight loss thing. We take this rope, tie yourself up to the ceiling, and hang there for a month. That's a good way to lose 10 pounds pretty quickly, if not your health.
But the thing that I found most absurd, I'm no fan of the relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia, and I think they've engaged historically in a lot of things that I don't really like. But the fact is they're their own country, and my policy towards countries that do things that I don't like is I just don't go there and let them do whatever they're doing. There was someone in Congress, I don't know if it was Elizabeth Warren or somebody like that, who said that Biden needs to punish MBS. Like MBS is some little kid, or that Biden has some authority over him or some say.
No, that a lot of people on the left are saying that.
It's absurd. It's like saying, name any other country and they should punish Hillary Clinton for what she's doing in this country.
I like
That's
that.
actually valid, but the point is, let's say Mohammed bin Salman said, all right, that guy, Jamal Khashoggi, he was hanging out with the Mujahideen in 1980. And the United States says he's a journalist that they selected to cover what was going on with the Mujahideen and the Afghan fighters against the Soviet Union for something called Arab News, which strikes me as the type of thing that maybe the State Department might create. But he's had a long and very not well understood relationship with various factions of the Saudi royal family and even the Muslim Brotherhood. His relationship to the Muslim Brotherhood is not well understood. So within the context of Saudi Arabia and Saudi Arabian law, if that guy was committing an insurrection and you get the death penalty for that in Saudi Arabia, who are we to say how justice is meted out in that country? And when you enter their embassy, aren't you in their country? They captured a fugitive and executed him, perhaps. Maybe that's somebody's point of view. And I don't think the United States or Hillary Clinton or anybody has a right to tell the king of another country what to do other than saying, you know what, we're not going to deal with you guys. And they can't do that because, as Putin said, we have an economy based on a Ponzi scheme that they're the partner in.
Right. Well, I think Putin does overstate that point a little bit.
I don't think he does.
No, he does, because the oil portion of the economy is important, but other portions are much, much bigger, many, many times bigger. Yes, our industry benefits from perhaps until recently having cheap oil.
But it's not the price of oil. It's the fact that they compel anyone buying or selling it to only use dollars. That is the problem.
But it's just a step. There's a deep market for dollars. You create demand for dollars by forcing them to do that. You get your oil, and you give the person dollars, and they go and sell the dollars. So
I thought they're forced to buy our treasury bonds and buy the
I
debt.
don't think they're forced to do that.
Saudi?
And there's so many different ways you could swap out of that I just don't think that's.
I thought that was the whole scheme, is that they buy the treasury bonds, we force everybody to use dollars to buy and sell oil,
that may be
and
for-
we defend them. And then that is the Ponzi scheme, not
Well,
the
I think
price of oil.
There's
or
an
the-
element of that, but again, it would depend. What is the aggregate amount? What's the total flow that we're talking about? What percentage of that is in that scheme? And now, for decades, if you wanted to force people to put their holdings into treasury bonds, the bank will say, okay, we'll let you diversify out of those bonds. You keep them in your account and we'll figure out a way.
See, this is the part that I don't understand.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
So I think if we take the scheme away for a second, the size of the United States economy is roughly 20 trillion. The size of the Russian economy is roughly, it may be smaller, a trillion.
One,
One.
and we're 20?
Yeah. So
But what if it's 19 fake?
it's not nine. It's not like Twitter.
22 fake?
No, it truly is 20.
I'm kidding. There's a lot of fakeness.
Now, if you we go down Park, or you want to go down Lex?
Yeah, let's do that. Mark?
So if you were now, one point that I would concede is that if you go back to World War II and look at World War II forward, buying behavior changed in the West. Prior to 1945, the statistics that are available suggest that consumers saved up for their purchases in the main. They
Right.
didn't.
Credit cards were
They had
not.
no credit cards. You didn't. Much higher percentage of home value was paid for in cash. All of that has changed dramatically, so that too many people are wholly dependent on the credit markets. They've got to
Right.
start out with student loans. They move from there into overpaying for real estate. They have credit card loans, and they just count on being able to constantly refinance all that and hope that the value of their real estate goes up enough to ultimately bail them out. That was a very dangerous approach, and it is a dangerous approach, and it's incredibly irresponsible of the university system to systems across the country to encourage people to do that, to continue to do that. It's incredibly irresponsible of the banking system to promote that.
They love it. When I got to NYU, they had all these tables set up like, get American Express
right.
card, get a Chase MasterCard.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They want to get you onto deficit
Hooked.
spending right away.
It's not hooked on phonics, it's hooked on deficit spending.
Debt, yeah.
Hooked on being stupid, illiterate. And then let's take the people in charge of that insanity, let's make them Treasury Secretary.
do you
This
like
is
that?
a nice store, but it's,
That's a nice bird for the desk.
yeah. This stuff is rather overpriced.
But you could paint that blue and pretend it's Twitter.
I think it's probably silver plate, but I remember when this store started out, it was very small. And
What is this
it's
store?
Scully and Scully. It's gotten, see Scully and Scully?
You need cigars to have a chair like that.
Yeah, that's too small. Those are like kid-sized chairs. But this, as I say, this stuff is very, look at that. That's a very small chair.
It's not deep, yeah.
That one's a little bigger, but it's, there's your walking cane.
I don't know why today is a real, yeah, but the skull, what the hell is with that?
It's a numbskull.
But why isn't that, what is it, like James Bond and that's the voodoo priest who's
I
got
don't
why do you need that skull?
I don't know. Can't tell you.
So deficit spending, Charles. Eric Adams continues to do nothing to improve the city.
Oh, what a disappointment he is.
He's just doing nothing. I think he's like the White House military office. Nobody home. You could have nobody being the mayor and it would be essentially the same thing.
Yeah. And well,
Maybe better.
And thankfully, because of all this global cooling, it's unseasonably, I think this morning it was the coldest it's been at this time of year in decades.
I've noticed that
56
it's
degrees.
all day yesterday too.
Yeah.
In the 60s.
That's because of global warming.
I know.
So,
Well, climate change is what they call it now, and it's changing from day to day. we need a world, Charles, where every single day is 80 degrees, and we're going to force it to be that way by turning everything off, giving everybody money,
Right.
and pretending that's going to work.
Exactly. Here's this James Robinson store.
That's
Kind
the
of
silverware.
courageous to keep the stuff out in the window still.
Yeah, it also never makes sense to me that the fence is on the other side of the glass.
True.
So like, oh damn it, we got to buy another window. Also, you could stick your fingers through that and take the silver if you wanted to.
I think by the time, the first crack appeared on that window, there'd be private
Hunter
security.
Biden would be right in there.
He'd be right there. Did I invite you in here?
Yeah, you said crack. Guy came running.
These are expensive French bath sheets. And here's your stacks. Get some rare
Right,
coins.
Rare coins.
One of the times we walked by here on a Sunday, they were open.
Yeah. Maybe they were just hanging out to make sure nobody would break in.
And they're not.
How's gold doing?
Gold is not, nothing's doing well. I mean, sorry to bring
Crypto is having an epic puke.
Yeah. Well, the financial markets, the Dow and the S&P and NASDAQ were down about 6% or so in a week. Bitcoin, I think, was down more like, 25% or something?
It was under 17,000, which is like the lowest it's been in a long, long time, and the most dramatic drop in a short period of time. I think the only sound investment right now, Charles, is shoes for tiny little dogs.
No, I didn't. Kiyosaki, what's that guy's name, first name? Dennis. Robert Kiyosaki said canned tuna. He's investing in canned tuna.
You know, I was amazed when I met him. He was giving a speech at that Red Pill Expo, which I have come to not trust. But he mentioned that he was a Vietnam vet, which I didn't know, and that how he found some place to buy gold in Vietnam, and that's where he started investing, and then he came back to the United States. And then I wanted to ask him specifically about his experience as a Vietnam vet coming back, and I asked him questions about the Weather Underground, and he was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Dude, I thought you're some kind of genius or whatever." And he insulted me for not having researched him. And I never claimed to have researched him. I thought it was very obnoxious for him to say that, because even though he's famous and very important in his own mind, he's just a guy that I saw for the first time ever and wanted to ask him about something. Holy crap, Charles.
Aston Martin.
Yes.
Coming
Now,
soon.
let me ask you something. This is probably 10 times the price of my car, and I'm sure it's got a huge engine, but it kind of looks very similar to my car, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's, cars are not my thing.
But I mean, you could get an Aston Martin DBX and drive around
As I keep
throwing
saying,
money out the window.
burning money.
Yeah.
I love doing that.
That's a crazy. I mean, they're opening an Aston Martin dealership.
Well, this is a very fancy auction house right here.
Wow. Wow. DBX. That's got to be the first SUV they've ever done. Huh.
Silliness.
I mean, that's going to be 300 grand if it's $1.
Maybe Joe will get one for Hunter.
Joe Biden.
Yeah,
Somebody estimated the value of his Corvette at over $1 million.
They'll be used to pay his family's criminal penalties, I hope.
This just sees it.
This is amazing. This is how much this has changed. My last office was in the next block to the right.
What is this building again?
Well, it was an old-fashioned building that was knocked down.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to get it finished. Now it doesn't look very occupied.
Empty.
Yeah. Well, most everything around here is empty.
Yeah, time to build an Aston Martin dealership.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to raise taxes and interest rates and energy prices. People are going to leave. Great time to put up more expensive real estate that nobody's going to want. And if they want it, they won't be able to afford it. Here's We Don't Work.
How is this thing staying around? Wasn't it bankrupt or something?
I don't know that it was bankrupt, but I think it had
SoftBank?
Well, I don't remember the details precisely, but it was a bubble that contracted. Whether it ultimately went under is another question.
The other thing about Saudi Arabia that we forgot to address that I also don't approve of is Donald Trump's son-in-law's relationship.
That was the building there. That one.
With the domes on there?
Huh?
With those round things?
Yeah, but the second floor we had of that building.
Is this Elon Musk?
And I saw at least, I want to say 3 separate occasions I saw, our boardroom was the far window, and I looked out and I saw a taxi smoking, and the next thing it was whoosh,
wow.
in flames. What is this idiot doing?
Stopping to look at the Ferrari dealership.
I know, but there's somebody behind him.
Yeah, but people don't seem to care about anything other than themselves for the most part. Yeah, he really just totally stopped.
This
At
guy,
least
go
this
right through the
person
light.
had the decency to not honk. And then Santa Claus is driving the Chevy.
And there's your green Ferrari.
I think that one must be yours. Are they worried about the Aston Martin competition? I don't think Ferrari cares about Aston Martin.
I don't think so either. I mean, if you're going to get a Ferrari, don't you have to get a red one?
I think so, and a 12-cylinder one, but you know.
How much is this?
This new one is really crazy expensive. They're not going to have the price on it. I think it might be $800,000 or $900,000.
Where could you drive that in New York City? There's nowhere.
People are driving them around.
I know, but you got the potholes, you got the people who will bump into you just for the hell of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I admire those kind of cars, but when it comes down to...
You're going to be on the Autobahn, that's another thing.
I think I've told you that there's one billionaire that I know. We did a video of his house, a 3D thing, and I'm not going to say we became friends, but he invited me to a few parties and things after that. He owns, if I say this, people will know who it is, but he owns a racetrack. He has a private home with a racetrack on it, and he owns
have that.
A huge number, like a McLaren and all these other kind of cars, and he's a very accomplished race car driver.
And is it Hunter?
Not Hunter. Not a crackhead.
Yet.
Yeah, he was always good to me. I haven't spoken to him in a long, long time.
Looks good on you.
Yeah. That's actually a very fast car. Subaru WRX.
I thought that's what you put on stuff to clean it.
That's WD-40.
Oh, right, okay.
And if my first AC were here, he would say, it is a solvent, not a lubricant. Okay, Ray. He gets very pissed off when you use WD-40 incorrectly.
Maybe he tried.
I feel like I'm going to fall through. This is weak plywood here.
Maybe he was sent by his girlfriend to get lubricant and came back with WD-40 and...
This was one of these guys who had a very particular way, but he was excellent at his job and a lot of fun on set. Nobody disliked him, but if you did something wrong and were below him on the crew, you immediately got yelled at. That's the guy whose number one rule was don't get yelled at.
See, how old was he at the time?
Maybe like a year or two older than me.
Yeah, this is flimsy.
It doesn't seem safe at all. I've never seen something like that before. This is like...
Sustainable, Jason.
Well, I was going to say, it's like Beijing construction technology.
It's a sustainable bamboo.
Right. Start making skyscrapers out of bamboo.
The big bamboo.
Big bamboozle.
So yeah, this is not too unusual for a Sunday around here. I mean, this is
right. This
really
is not,
offices.
Yeah.
This is the famous Racket Club, 370 Park Avenue. Still, as far as I remember, only admits men.
Wow, how is that not Me Too and sexist?
They have a gigantic endowment, and they structure it so that it complies with the rules. Bill Clinton actually, they have, I don't know, they still do. They had a large collection of, if you remember, you could keep your cigars here.
Huh.
And Clinton found out about it, and I guess I don't think.
Humidor.
I've got the human humidor. No,
Tuna flavor.
I need some of them Racket Club. So anyway, he had somebody. I don't know if it was the feds or if it was they got the local authorities to handcuff the manager of the club to that awning there.
What?
And have this raid where they seized all the cigars.
What?
Yeah. And
who did that?
I'm not sure if it was alleged, I think, or somebody else suspected it was the FBI, and or the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or whatever.
Huh.
And the joke was on them because a large number of those cigars were Cuban, yes, but they were pre-Castro Cuban.
Wow.
So they did a huge headline that they're going to do this. Another friend of mine tells the story at the University Club where he's the one, he's now passed away, who was on the equivalent of the Board of Trustees at Yale Law School, went to Yale Law School, and he was big at the University Club, and he got Hillary Clinton thrown out of the University Club.
That's awesome.
She was
Physically, I hope.
Well, yeah, she was on a cell phone, yakking away, and either he or somebody said, "You can't do that in here." Don't you know who I am?
Really? She literally
she
said
tried
that?
the "Don't you know who I am?" She was on the street.
Yeah, we know who you are.
Yeah.
Hit the bricks, bitch.
Hag.
I know who you are.
Exactly.
I love it when people say that. Somebody said that to me once. You have no idea who I am. I said, I don't give. I think you know what I said to the guy.
Right.
And he had nothing to say to that.
Right.
He just left.
Yeah.
Go revel. Well, but speaking of Bubba and the witch, Bubba was talking to James Corden, who I have no beef with. He's funny, but he's British, and I hate it when these British guys come to America, earn a lot of money, and tell us what's wrong. It's like, dude, get the hell out of here. But so he's like, well, you know what, James, we're in danger of losing our democracy. Yeah, you need to be in jail, dude.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched the whole thing, but
I think I didn't see the whole thing.
So I did watch it, and Gordon says to him, well, what are you spending? You're always so optimistic. What are you spending your time doing? Well, I spend a lot of time hanging around with children. Like, I'll bet you do. I bet you do, Miss Epstein Island.
I just did a bump in the green room. Feeling pretty good.
And on my Twitter feed, thanks to the various people who are putting up memes and different things that are very funny, but somebody put up the Goebbels quote that one of his many quotes, but one of them is, accuse your enemies of doing what it is you're doing.
Right.
And that's right out of the Hillary Clinton handbook.
Yeah.
Vast right-wing conspiracy and all the other things that she accuses Republicans. But for both Clintons to say we've never been more at risk of losing our democracy. What are you talking about? You're in charge. Democrats are in charge.
That's why.
I know.
It's like, by the way, it's out the window already.
Yeah.
So, Peter Navarro, I think, pled not guilty to contempt of Congress and looked quite happy exiting the, what's his name, Pretty Man courthouse?
Virgil Pretty Man.
Is it Virgil?
Something like that. Anyway, but it's, I guess we should walk through, we can walk through Grand Central.
Yeah, let's do it. We haven't been in there in a while.
Thank God.
Did you tell me that you have or have not utilized the helicopter from the top of the Pan Am building back in the day?
In the day I did, yes.
You did?
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, Charles.
It was a little bit...
scary as hell?
Oh, it wasn't scary. I mean, it was... I forget, I think it was just after that somebody...
it crashed.
Well, somebody did not keep their head down.
And got chopped?
Yeah. And,
oh my God.
And I forget, there was another instance where either it crashed and bits of the propeller or the thing went over the side of the building and killed somebody in front of Brooks Brothers.
Oh my God. So they were like, yeah, maybe this isn't a great idea.
And again, the ad for Blade is, first of all, you got to get over. Well, you got to get over to the heliport. That's going to take you 20 minutes, depending on where you are.
Oh, the whole thing was basically a waste of time. It didn't save you that much time.
Yeah, I mean, it's 20. Let's say, be charitable and say it's 20 minutes to get there. How long are you going to wait before you get on? How long is it going to take to get off the helicopter? Yes, it's 5 minutes, as opposed to an hour in a cab.
But the whole trip.
It's like the Bill Clinton thing.
10 minutes.
It's like the Bill Clinton thing with we reduced the price of HIV and AIDS drugs, but you got to pick them up in India.
Yeah.
And then you got to get them to Africa. That's on you, but I saved you a lot of money.
They had something sort of like that in one of my very favorite movies of all time as a little kid, Superman, where Lois Lane, there's an accident with the helicopter, and that was like the first Superman scene. He rescues Lois Lane from the helicopter falling off the top of the Pan Am building.
Oh.
But I think they said it was the Daily Planet.
Oh, Daily Planet. Yeah.
Yeah. But that was one of those things that when I was a kid, I was like, that's super cool. But I never got to do it. And the Concorde also.
Concorde, I will say, was really fun. That was fun because it was the thing that was really interesting about it for me, beyond the food and the service and saving a lot of time.
Miles an hour.
And was that there was always somebody interesting on the
Right.
flight.
Yelling at Sinatra.
That was fun to do.
It's the only place where you can do that without getting stabbed with an ice
the
pick.
stewardess came up to me because she knew me and said, "This guy's is endangering the plane. The captain can't come back. Will you tell him to sit down and shut up?" No problem.
What did Sinatra say?
He sat down and shut up. Because he was like this kind of drunk. He was walking,
wobbling.
Yeah. And I just went right in his face. Sit the fuck down.
I was like, You heard that Buddy Hackett story about how Frank Sinatra saved his life?
I forget, yeah, but Buddy Hackett's
six
fun.
guys were beating him up one time, and Sinatra was like, okay, that's enough.
Buddy Hackett was fun.
He was hilarious.
Those old, we don't really have the same
No.
funny,
that guy would get canceled in 4 seconds today.
Right.
Nobody has a sense of humor anymore. Everybody has to feel safe. So this whole Twitter, tweeps the people. I did a whole show talking about Elon Musk's call with the employees. How normal is that, Charles, for some super billionaire coming in to buy a public company and putting up with the asshole questions of the asshole employees?
You are running and have run creative talent businesses and businesses that do have actual talent. I'm not sure Twitter does.
Yeah.
You do have to remember that your best assets walk out the door every day. And even if you don't want to actually do what Musk did, I think it was very strong of him to do it.
I agree.
To go out. I did in 2016. I remember the Bernie supporter, who I actually met, claimed to have a network of 2,000 to 3,000 people who were promoting my work on the Clinton Foundation because they loathed Hillary. They were pro-Bernie, and they felt that he got the shaft. So they asked me to do at least one Ask Me Anything on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoyed those. Those were fun. I'm not saying I'm Elon Musk, but
well, and it's a different situation, of course. But isn't it? It seemed to me like I've never heard about really anything like that happening where he answers the questions of the employees. Usually it's sort of like somebody new is taking it over, and if you don't like it, you can either shut up or quit.
It really depends what type of a business it is. If it's a, I know when Dillon Reed was acquired, the acquirer, I'll let you go in. The acquirer recognized that in addition to the partners, there was a core group of people they didn't want to lose, and so there were special deals cut to keep us there. And it's
so he's doing that to show that he's not.
But what I don't get is why he's putting up. Maybe his lawyers were not smart enough, and the agreement that he signed to quote agree to buy Twitter is tighter than it should be. I think I hate to sign letters of intent. I much rather go do my diligence
and then contract,
and then I'll sign a binding contract.
Because they still haven't given him this bot information.
You gotta have
they
that.
said we're going to give you the fire hose. How long does that take? Just point it this way, and we'll receive the water.
And when they say we're going to give you the fire hose, that probably means there's maybe more than one fire hose or versions of the fire hose.
They're preparing some bullshit report, aren't they?
I don't know, but
it's a weird amount of time to say we're going to do something and then have not done it yet.
Right. So, well, here we are. You notice it's hot in here.
It is.
Go ahead.
I wonder why. I don't know.
Lack of air conditioning.
The air conditioning is on. Oh, whoa! What's going on there?
That's what we're headed to this
what is
summer.
That about?
You can go down. It's cooler down here. When I went up to Millbrook, I was in here and it was quite hot. And I think that's what we're headed towards. Sometimes in the summer, normally, these buildings are cool. In fact, uncomfortably cool.
Right.
But I think high energy prices
turn the air conditioning down a few degrees.
And you probably don't remember the period or weren't alive during the period when it was quite common not to have air conditioning
Oh, I
at all in
remember that
in the
well.
summer. And as irascible as New Yorkers are when there is air conditioning, when there's no air conditioning, if we ever get back to high heat,
The subway.
the subway.
Still, I mean, I haven't been on it in a long time, but the last time I was on the subway, there was a limited number of subway cars that had air conditioning, and many still did not.
Right.
So let's see, how's the general crowd look?
Well, it's Father's Day, and a fair number of people.
We haven't really seen any.
We went in, you and I were in here 2 years ago, remember? It was just
Nobody.
vacant. There were people with
Army.
machine guns, not submachine
Being
guns.
jerks.
Right.
Apple stores open. They're unionizing Apple stores around.
Never a good sign. I hear the people without guns or submachine guns,
I'm sure they must have guns. They're not. Yeah,
Not-
they got
but not machine
sidearms,
Not machine guns.
revolvers, or probably 9mm.
Speaking of sidearms, we see, as we suspected when we're walking around, this gun compromises out the window.
What do you mean?
Well, what the Democrats and the progressives love to do, and the Republicans as well when they're in charge, is they love to announce an outline agreement, and then buried in the details, the agreement does exactly the opposite of what
Move
you
the
thought.
goalpost.
Right, so they're now trying to put a tax, 1,000%
Oh, I saw that.
tax on that,
On AR-15.
and then to strangle the production of ammunition. You can have guns, you just can't have bullets.
Right. They love those kinds of tricks.
So,
But even, they're also, as we await the Supreme Court to decide about abortion, they're
get
also
away
going to
from it.
decide about constitutional carry in New York. I'm more interested in hearing about that.
well,
But so they're going to charge 1,000% tax on the gun.
which is ridiculous.
And what stops them from doing that for any industry?
Well,
they
it's
don't
not
like?
it's not going to get across the line. But the point is, they wanted to. They try to sell this idea in D.C. and internationally. Look at that guy.
Some of the electric unicycle.
That being bipartisan is a good thing. What they mean by bipartisan is stealing money together, Democrats
Right.
and Republicans. There's nothing good about that. And you get Romney to sign on to something, and suddenly it's
That's
Republican.
okay, yeah. Or Adam Kinzinger and what's her name, Dick Cheney.
That's their name, Dick Cheney. Dickless Cheney.
Vagina Cheney.
Dickless Cheney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a fundamentally bad human being, Liz Cheney. Same with Kinzinger.
Terrible. So they've had more days of the January 6th miniseries or whatever that is.
Yeah, the
dramatic.
ratings suck. No one's.
The facts suck. They don't have. Why aren't they questioning John Sullivan and Ray Epps and that BG on the scene guy? How do they have all the?
Well,
Oh look, here's Liz Cheney right here.
And what about who's the girl who got shot? Ashley.
Babbitt.
Is it Ashley Babbitt? For Biden to go on and on and on with these false allegations. For a second, I thought that was a statue. There's a woman back there.
Sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
I know she's very stationary.
Biden goes on and on about how Trump supporters murdered people on January 6th. That is
Right.
not true.
Well, and just briefly back to the Putin speech and the whole, I've heard it so many times from people, why do you believe Putin? I don't believe Putin, but it's literally the difference. Like if you sat down in front of a TV and I turned on a Bugs Bunny cartoon and then I turned on a documentary and
I'd
it's
be
like,
watching Bugs Bunny.
this hyena goes straight for the liver. You're like, all right, this seems factual. We could go check everything. Bugs Bunny, you don't need to bother. He's just making crap up.
But it's more fun to watch. Either that or Rocky and Bullwinkle.
I mean, I'm just saying there's a certain degree to which Joe Biden is saying things that are just absolutely nonsensical, unfounded, and absurd.
That's how he got elected.
And Putin is speaking about stuff that you can just look back over the last 20 years, and he's just making commentary on things that actually occurred, stating what Russia has done. He's not making up the fact that the ruble is the strongest currency in the world and hitting all kinds of highs. It's a result of him
Right.
implementing this plan that he's talking about and telling you how it's going to continue. And honestly, for us, it did not sound good at all.
Well, and sure, and I'm sure the side conversations that Putin's people are having, Lavrov and others sitting down perhaps with Finland and saying, okay, so you want to join NATO? You know, good.
Wait for the boom.
Yeah, well, that we need, China and India are becoming very important customers, and we appreciate that we don't need to send any more gas your way. Good luck.
Or cell phones, computers.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck this coming winter. I hope you enjoy the cold because you're going to get to experience a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know, and those conversations are going on with all the countries of Europe that are still dependent on Russian gas and energy.
Now, what's I thought just fell out of my head here. Oh yeah, with Taiwan, that guy, some Chinese minister of something or other, said they should seize Taiwan semiconductor in response to some inflammatory crap Joe Biden said. Any interesting China stuff happening?
Yeah, I mean, China. I did a nice interview with Gordon Chang and John Patcher. They're now on CBS.
Wow.
And 10 minutes or so on the significance of the Chinese economy just blowing up, which it is.
In a bad way.
In a very bad way. Combination of just really inept management since 2008 forward. They invested too much money in phantom factories and cities, and graft and corruption and military venturism. And with the lockdowns, with the aging population, with the inability to innovate, and the dampened under Trump ability to steal shit from the United States and the West, yes, they didn't have to lock down for COVID during our lockdown, but now they are. Let's just go a little slower.
Sure.
But now, they're locking large areas of the country down, and the global economy is sputtering around the places they're trying to colonize in Africa and elsewhere. You've got, if you don't have revolution.
That China is trying to colonize?
Right, yeah, I mean, China went aggressively into Africa.
Economic colonization.
Right, and then their approach is to go to a country, whether it's in Africa or Sri Lanka, and say, look, we'll give you this, we'll lend you the money to do this.
Now we own your ass.
And now, exactly. And so it's one thing to say you own Sri Lanka, but if it's, riots in the streets, do you really think you're going to get any money out of Sri Lanka?
But don't they just wait for that to end and then mop up the streets?
I don't know. I mean, this day we're talking about, there's 150 million members of the Chinese Communist Party, and there are about 1.3 billion in the country. So just to keep control over the country, let alone all your colonies, when your instincts are not, it's not like the relations naturally between the government of China and the poor people in Africa are.
They don't like it.
There's not a long-standing history of amity.
I agree.
And that's before you get into, there's some, every country has their, racist is too strong a term, but people who decide that a certain subset of the country are better than everybody else, and the Chinese have that problem as well. So I forget what it's called, the Han Chinese view themselves to be superior to other Chinese.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah. Let alone getting into discussion of who's superior, Africans or the Han Chinese.
Right.
Not no PhD thesis needed on that in China.
Yeah.
So, and here we are.
It's more of an op-ed.
It's an no. No ed required. Yeah, I think those are the same air conditioners, or at least the boxes that were there when I owned that apartment.
That's terribly inefficient.
I mean, I bought in '83. I'm pretty sure you should probably have replaced those by now.
It's just amazing to me that this type of air conditioner is even still used, and that we can't invent something more efficient.
Like keeping the window open.
Well, no, I mean, your refrigerator is generating a ton of heat, and your clothes dryer, all these things are creating this exhaust that if you could somehow recapture, or I don't know, it just seems that you're heating water, you're cooling other things. You're gonna combine that stuff and get a little more efficiency going. That's terrible. Hang on.
Let's go this way. We're at Madison.
We got
Here's the Union League Club.
Construction site here.
Destruction site.
It's the whole city, Charles. you're welcome to the site of our own destruction. Well, what else?
Another
is
nice,
capturing your attention.
another fine kettle of fish you've gotten us into. Here's an AMG.
Yeah. Matt, good spot, Charles.
And this,
Oh God, that garbage
that
stinks.
primo garbage, Jason. It's Union League Club garbage.
Oh,
We're the elite
because it's getting hotter. That's
Thai massage spot. That's interesting. Right next to the Union League Club.
I wonder.
There, those see those copper pots? Are those copper? I think they are.
Oh yeah, these guys are welding.
My mother had a huge collection of those that she shipped over to my youngest brother, who's the
Chester copper pots.
nice. I forget the name of them, but
That's the guy who's the penguin, I think, in Batman.
sorry.
That it's a totally inane thing that you will not be interested in.
Okay. Here's J.P. Morgan's house. Very modest place. This one.
And what is this, Poland over here?
That is the Polish consulate.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not the entire country of Poland, but
Just keeping our
Yeah.
viewers clear. We've crossed a lot of territory today.
they're doing so well in Eastern Europe, they opened another location here. That's a pretty young kid still wearing a mask outside.
That's what they're going to be calling this country. Poland. We Po.
What do you think of that? That looked like a kid, maybe something in the range of like 14 years old, wearing a mask outside.
Like this. I mean, you can't fix stupid. Another one here.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been an exercise, an experiment in how to control a large segment of the world's population. And particularly in countries where they're older people who are fearful.
Right.
It's very easy. We see it's very easy to turn citizens in this country into subjects.
Against each other as
Yeah.
well.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it's not that long ago that just walking down the street, you and I without a mask, got nothing but nasty looks. And even dummies telling us stuff.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to continue. I was telling you before I got on air that some young black kid started yelling racist epithets at me on Father's Day.
For no reason at all.
No reason. I didn't do anything. I was walking down the street. Didn't know the guy. Didn't look at him. So you white asshole. White people are evil.
I mean, if we want to get into the psychology of why the guy would say that, maybe there's an absence of a male role model in his life, and he sees you looking like a fatherly age, and he's I'm not making an excuse, I'm just trying to understand it, but acting out like that, I mean, it makes no sense.
Charles going to camp.
Yeah, back in the day.
Way back in the day.
Way back in the day.
59 years ago, to be precise.
Time is flying, Charles.
Actually, more or less, I think, within a couple weeks of now, 59 years ago. Or maybe it was
Summer
58
camp
years
from there?
ago. Huh?
Summer camp from there?
Yeah. So we learned how to shoot guns. Onward Christian soldiers.
Definitely Jesus would want you to do that.
Of course. It's in the hymn. Onward Christian soldiers, march against the war. With the cross of Jesus.
I think if it's righteous, shoot somebody.
Well,
Kidding.
but the music actually, though, my mother wasn't particularly interested in religion, but she because she's a specialist in Baroque organ music, that's played in churches, basically.
If the organ's Baroque, don't you just fix it?
That's what we had to do.
Man, the dumb jokes, they just keep coming.
No, I remember when our organ did break and they had to send people from, I think it was
Oh yeah, you told me that story.
Holland to come over and fix it.
So are there any other major kind of news things
Well,
that we're
yeah,
forgetting
we've
about?
got, I started out saying today is National Martini Day, and I think it is. Tomorrow is Juneteenth. We're going to we'll see how well that goes over. I believe that insiders will get a first look at the Supreme Court decision on abortion, and either way, they're going to riot.
Yeah.
Especially they'll riot if the decision is to overturn it. And even if they somehow don't overturn it, they'll have riots to say, we can't let this be taken away from us ever.
Have the risk of it happening again.
It's outrageous. The world would be better off if women ran it. Let's cross the street and go that way.
Ran the whole world or the Supreme Court?
Everything. That'll be the argument to get the...
Put Kamala Harris in charge?
Oh, yeah.
But Karine Jean-Pierre is kind of a lesser version of Kamala Harris in that when you decide you're going to hire someone because they fit a gender, racial, or other demographic profile versus we're just going to find the best candidate for this job, even if it's a houseplant.
You've undercut everything that you're trying to set out to do. The goal is not to have a representative sample of people selected for positions whether or not they're qualified.
Right.
The goal is to have honest competition with the rules the same for everybody, and in the end discover that for the first time in a long time, we have remarkably more representation of people, I would start by saying, who come from an economically disadvantaged background, with real problems they've had to deal with. We'll forget their gender, choice of gender identity.
Who they like to have sex with.
Well, forget all that stuff. People have had crushing burdens that they've overcome. I mean, I know, I'm not going to say names, but people who were out of Bosnia living in concentration camps.
Right.
And who got through that unspeakable you were with me in Bosnia.
And executives now at big companies.
Big companies, very successful, who got ahead because they would come to this country not speaking a word of English.
And I think that kind of adversity actually prepares you for challenges in business much more than sitting around and whining and complaining.
Right.
One of the major things that's being reported in the wake of that Elon Musk call with the, I'll refrain from saying what I was going to say, but the people who work at Twitter,
douchebags,
was much worse than that, which is why I refrained.
Okay.
But they're upset that Elon Musk said that he is a huge supporter of meritocracy. And they're like, oh, we can't have that.
Well, you're out of here.
Of course. I mean, I've said it many times, it was my biggest problem with Hollywood, was that it was absolutely not a meritocracy. And you could be the best at what you do, and some dope who's the nephew of whoever gets the job.
Right. Well, that doesn't look like he's in terribly good shape. It's Jack in the Box. You got Jerk in the Box. Put me in that box.
I didn't see the guy in the box.
He was shuffling back and forth.
It's a sorry state, Charles.
That it is.
Oh, actually, that Whole Foods over here opened.
Right. Well, so we have the wind up or the aftermath of the Roe decision, and that's coming soon. I would guess it's going to.
They keep saying Tuesday, which makes me think it's not going to happen on Tuesday.
Well, the term is over, I think, by supposedly June 30th normally, and so we've got the 20th, 21st. You got it's either this Tuesday or the next one's the 28th, and I don't know when after that they might defer it until. But you have that. You have this gigantic heat dome over the center of the country. It's really hot in places like the north of Michigan, straight down to the New Orleans and the Gulf. That weather's heading this way.
Oh no.
And we have school is virtually out at this point. I don't know about the summer job situation. It's probably not doing very well.
Nobody wants to work anywhere.
Right, and so you're about to have a period where you get a lot of kids with nothing to do. And who've been either not in school or brainwashed or both, having to deal with no food on the table.
You know what they say about idle hands, Charles? Devil's plaything.
Yeah, I know. Here we go.
Or plaything.
The biggest thing in Bitcoin since Bitcoin.
What's that? Grayscale. I don't know what that is.
This place was.
What was this?
I forget. You could play. What was this retail space?
That could be. That could be a very challenging. It's harder than Jeopardy.
Pal, that used to be a.
No, that's a new.
That's new, but that thing was in business last time we walked by Pal.
Boy, every time we've gone by that restaurant, they're just mopping it, and there's nobody in there.
Well, yeah, down here on a Sunday.
Yeah, no, there's not going to be anybody.
Did you ever study here?
No. American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Yeah.
We really haven't heard anything from Ashley Biden about this diary, or really very much about her at all.
Thankfully.
I mean, I'd like to hear her response.
I just think this is a deeply troubled person who...
The whole family. And I mean, look, we've acknowledged this before. I think a really large number of families struggle with and have challenges with substance abuse, etc. But when it's everybody in the family,
Right.
maybe there's some other problem.
Right. Exactly. And, there were stories about Joe when he was a young senator. Those were the days of Studio 54 and all that kind of stuff. And Ted Kennedy was certainly a wild man in his youth. And there were some other guys.
But if Ivanka Trump released a diary or somebody found, and this was, it would just be, they would add additional hours to the day.
Right.
They would expand the number of channels on television to give you more shoved down the throat coverage of how terrible it was.
Well, that's the Brett Kavanaugh treatment, right? I mean,
It's everything, Charles.
Yeah.
And then when you say, hey, we're going to do something to make this system fair, they're like, oh, you racist. No, we can't have fair. This 0.4% minority will feel unsafe if things are fair.
Right. Well, that's why we got to make sure the election is honest this year. And folks have got to get out and vote. And I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing. For example, the big argument I remember getting from some friends down in the Bahamas who are Latin American. Yeah, Trump's a racist and Trump's this and and under the Trump years, the people who flourished were Hispanics
Right.
and African Americans. And now you're seeing, as a result of, you saw Jake Sullivan has COVID, by the way.
I did not see that.
Jake, I prepared for every eventuality in Afghanistan. That didn't work out too well.
But Fauci has it too, and it didn't stop him from, there you go again, Rand Paul, with the theater.
But what we're seeing is that millennials, blacks, Hispanics are fleeing the Democrat Party, and you're seeing that in these primaries, and they're embracing.
Something going on here.
Should we make
discuss.
a right?
Yeah, let's just not even bother with his nonsense.
Embrace the inner garbage, Jason.
I'm trying to, it's like, what's that with Serenity Now?
Right, the Serenity Prayer. Look at that. That is freaking high pile of garbage.
It's just,
And what is this here? Bowtie Street Bakery.
and then people are eating with the garbage.
Would you like a seat next to the garbage pile? To the left of the garbage pile or on the right?
Australia's #1 meat pie. This is Australian? Throw another pie in the garbage for you.
Yeah, look at
And
this.
here's one of our favorite guys riding an electric bike.
And another
on the
garbage
street.
pile.
You're better than Joe Biden. Didn't fall off. He could stop a bike without crashing.
Big trailer filled with garbage across the street.
Well, at least that's a dumpster. It's kind of sealed and off the street. It's not
I wonder how many people are sleeping in it.
in it, right? That's a open floor plan apartment to somebody.
Yeah. Is this where you get your pizza?
That's the car I used to have.
Oh, yeah?
Also a hybrid. No, I have never eaten there.
Why do you have such a problem with petroleum?
It's just that I like the concept of being able to go like 400 or 500 miles on a tank of gas, and I always seem to need a large enough car to hold like lots of camera stuff and everything. And then, I don't know, we had somebody on Lee Stranahan's radio show, the backstory, who was like on some vendetta against SUVs, and I said, well, I have a hybrid SUV. And he said, yeah, but you could get a hybrid car and get 70 miles to the gallon. And I was like, shut up, Dick. It was like, Why I gotta get a car that you want me to get?
Right. I know. Well, it's for the community, Jason.
I mean, listen, my answer to that is we could make this car get 50, 60, 70 miles per gallon, and that's a much more realistic goal than saying we're going to change everything to all electric, where, by the way, if you live in New York City, I can tell you right away that's not going to work, because you already have to pay a ton of money to put the car in the garage, and this was one of my considerations. I wanted to get an electric car, but it's like twice the amount to park in the garage with an electric thing.
Because you got to
pay the electric bill, and there's a limited number of those spots, and a lot of people want it.
Well, note to the electric car freaks, wait till you get your next electricity bill. I mean, the electricity is not going to just go down in cost.
There's certain places where if you own your own home, if you're in Nevada, if you're in Arizona, California, Florida, if you own your own home, there is right now technology available where if you make $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 a year or some huge number, that you can afford to put $50,000 worth of batteries and solar
Those are all
crap.
big ifs.
Correct. And also, you're going to need a certain number of years to get that investment back. But I do think that is sensible because it's decentralizing the electric grid, taking pressure off the existing electric. Like, that's a sensible plan towards doing something. Because those are also taxpayers who, again, this is going to be an area that you know much more about, where you could structure something to incentivize that purchase to make it make a lot of sense for someone who has the ability to make that choice. Oh, that guy smelled terrible, Charles.
Yeah, what I'm saying to you, Jason, is forget about the micro strategy, the macro sense. Where I don't know.
We've never seen anything like that.
Let's get across the street.
Holy cow, it smells like fish. What is going on over here? It's become like little Somalia.
I stopped myself. We were talking about on the Bachelor show, what did I think about investing money in China? And I stopped myself from saying, which I think Bachelor would have thought was funny, before I put money in China, I'd be scouting for beachfront property in Somalia. But that was just vile what we walked through.
Yeah, that's really bad.
You know.
And how long until it spreads this way? Because this is the problem. It's a cancer.
Yeah.
And our buddy Eric Adams is like, let's put a little Robitussin on it.
Right.
It's like, no, dude. Yeah. You need to surgically remove this before it metastasizes.
No, you've got to, I mean, when this kind of stuff happens, you've got to nip it in the bud.
Correct.
You've got to go and you've got to excise it. And make a spectacle of it. Say, look,
that looks nice.
We are not going to continue. Want to show it again?
Yeah, that pergola. Did we look in there before? Pergola. Yeah, see, I'm forgetting what we see sometimes, but that does look like a place where you could have a nice meal and some fun.
Yeah, and then get mugged on the way home.
I hope not.
I'm just saying.
I wouldn't come out here with the sun down. I think that is you probably would be okay, but you're sort of asking for it.
Particularly on this kind of a side street.
Right.
After dark.
Nobody around, not a lot of businesses open at night.
Yeah. If you're lucky, you wake up the next morning in that dumpster, alive. Unlucky.
Where's my kidney?
You're in those bags.
Somebody says disposable electric cars cause battery problems.
Yeah, actually on that subject, there's a zero hedge piece that...
toxic lithium.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean this is not so much the left hand doesn't know what the right is doing. It's the, one head up the other ass or something.
Right, well it's a government of idiots.
Yeah.
I mean,
coalition of willing idiots.
Yeah. Probably it's very much more important for her to scurry along the sidewalk than for us to get the light. But nice day, all told.
Yes. And we can be thankful for that on this Father's Day.
Yeah.
And to all the fathers who are watching. Had a nice, lengthy conversation with my father this morning.
You're lucky.
Yeah.
So anyway, we had the volatility in the markets to worry about this week. Will it continue?
What about Assange coming back?
Yeah, I mean, the way he's been treated, and frankly, Glenn Greenwald had a good piece calling out Trump for not pardoning Assange.
It was a bad thing for him to not do.
Well, the argument was that the Republican goons who don't want the truth told either threatened to vote yes on impeachment.
I bet.
And so Assange, remember, go back to what, you don't have to get all fancy and side points and this and that, as if you were thinking about it. Assange says, June 10th, 2016 or 12th, or whatever the day was, I have information in my possession that will put Hillary Clinton in prison. She's running for president, right?
Yeah.
And we don't think the FBI and CIA is like, whoa, what does he have?
Well, don't you think they'd want to see it?
Yeah. Well, I think they did see it.
And they're like, oh, that's true information. Better put him in jail.
Right. I mean, the fact that we haven't had, anyone in the mainstream, Bula Bula. Let's see, one of the theme songs from Yale. She obviously did not go to Yale.
I didn't get it.
Bula Bula is a...
Oh, she was wearing a Yale shirt?
And I said Bula Bula.
Oh, because you said people in Congress were saying that, and I'm like, I don't get it. I'll pretend I do.
It's a fight song. Bula Bula Bula.
But you said, Assange, you got people in Congress saying...
Right, saying that, we're going to vote yes on impeachment.
How does he know they said that to him? Is it a guess? Or?
Trump, these are people reporting that's what, it's Glenn Greenwald reporting this.
But how does he know?
Because he talks to,
Wow. It sounds right. And honestly, that makes me even more disappointed in Trump, because he should have said, you know what, vote however you're going to vote. This guy's not going to jail. Yeah. I relied on his information to win this vote. You know what? If he had done that and brought Assange to the White House, they
would have killed him.
You would have killed Assange?
Trump.
Yeah, that might be right. You're right. It's difficult for me to say he should have done this or that. Who knows what they threatened him with? Charles, we're living in a terrible situation.
It's not that bad. Look at all the nice plants.
Well, right, but you get killed if you try to tell the truth.
Ah, details.
And the liars get big
shifty
partnerships at law firms and head up the FBI. I mean, think about that. So King Spalding puts in their head of the FBI.
I don't think he was a senior partner at King Spalding. He was just...
But he was a partner.
Was it
and
Kirkland
then
and
Wilmer
Ellis?
Hale.
And Kirkland and Ellis.
Right. All these different law firms have their people in the...
Perkins Coie.
We say the revolving door like it's like, oh, that's bad, they're getting money. No, this is how they control the country and throw innocent people in jail and let criminals get away. It's worse than stealing money.
Yeah. A lot of cranes, Jason.
I know. Ukraine would be the perfect name instead of U-Haul. I don't know if you could operate it yourself. It seems dangerous.
Yeah. We have no
That's good. Riding up on the sidewalk, not looking. What could go wrong? Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
So we're almost
I've gotten you back at the appointed hour.
Well, people I think are going to be getting ready for Father's Day dinner. So we want to get back on time.
You think Bill Gates is going to have Beyond Meat in his shit water tonight for dinner?
That would be good.
It'd be appropriate.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to, people who like doing these memes, we should have a contest for designing the label for Bill Gates's poop water, yeah. Poopsicola.
We haven't heard too much from Melinda Gates.
Well, I'm sure she's probably doing dancing an Irish jig. Doesn't have to, sleep with that piece of lard anymore. And he's to close on we'll have to close on a hopeful note. So one more story after this, but for Gates to say, I think there's a worse pandemic coming.
How do you know that, Bill?
I just planned it.
Yeah. Oh. Oops. Should I not have said that out loud?
Vote early. I want to vote for Trump.
Who are they? What is that guy running for?
I don't know. It's local state elections. See who wins the Republican gubernatorial candidacy. That Lee Zeldin guy seems to be out front.
I think he has cancer, though.
Well, he can survive prostate cancer. whatever he
is
has.
he done with it, or I thought he like just
I
got
don't know.
diagnosed with it?
I don't know.
I don't think I like him too much.
I don't particularly like, well, any of these New York politicians.
Right.
Why would you want to be governor of New York?
Well, I would want to be governor of New York so I could put Andrew Cuomo in jail,
Yeah,
straighten out the court.
You can't even do that. I mean, you're going to have to, you'd want to put him away on federal charges. So being the governor doesn't help you that much.
Stick him in a concrete box. Doesn't matter who runs it.
Yeah, well, in the
Well-
Cuomo prison.
So you said you had a positive story.
No, I'm
for
just
the
saying we
closing.
have to come up with, it's up to us to
Oh,
come up with
now
one
we
positive
gotta
thing.
improvise,
The pressure's
so.
on.
Well,
Pressure's on. We haven't seen large streams of bicyclists today,
that's true.
which is, I suppose, positive. And honestly, the weather, I can remember Memorial Days, May 29th, May 30th, just boiling hot,
Yeah.
high humidity. We thankfully have not yet had one of those protracted periods this year. And it is the last day, almost the last day of spring, depending on whether you think it's the 20th
Oh,
or
right.
21st. So we're technically still in spring. The poster was hilarious. The producers, the original play and movie and the redone were also fantastic. Remember the premise of the movie?
Oh yeah, springtime for Hitler. in
Well,
Germany.
they invent this musical and they were trying to lose money, and instead it's wildly popular.
But they sold more shares in it than they
Right.
have, right?
Right, and that's basically the Biden administration.
Right.
Exactly the same time. In spring, this
Yeah.
Biden has behaved along with his chief of staff as a tin pot dictator.
Yes, telling industries how much profit they can make and whatnot.
And if you're going to go ahead and say, look, if we lose the Roe v. Wade, I'm going to decide what happens after. No, you're
Did he
not.
say that?
Yes. Kamala and he are getting together. They're figuring out. Let's let these guys go. They're deciding how they're going to handle
If they don't like the decision?
As
Wow.
if that's constitutional. I swore an oath to defend my crimes from becoming made
Right.
known in public. I don't think that's the oath that he signed
I don't think he
or
knows.
swore to. Yeah.
Well, Charles, it's been an excellent day, a wonderful show. Thank you. And thanks to everybody for watching. Have a great Father's Day. And actually, people can still get gift subscriptions, Charles.
That's a good idea.
If they send me an email, or if you go to crowdsourcethetruth.com and sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund, you could send a gift subscription to your father for Father's Day. Or just become a sponsor of the show by going to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth.